out, yeah, so yeah, we can take kind of a sense check of what we, what we want to do, with the meeting today. And, and just to, introduce, right, Justin, this is Dominic, and Dominic, Justin, and Dominic found us through Basil.
Surprise party. Justin was
Surprise.
actually in that first meeting.
Yeah, we met a few weeks back.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right. Okay. Well, good. Then, yeah. Then there is an intro, and like we've been kind of collaborating pretty strongly since then. And there's a kind of what's happening now. Not really directly in a holistic systems way, but still in a collaboration with all the ecosystem parts and pieces is there's a project catalyst, Cardano project catalyst. That's something, if you're familiar with, that Newman has been involved in a long time, for a long time. And they have these funding rounds where they you put in a proposal and for projects that can work on the project on Cardano blockchain, or benefit the ecosystem. And so yeah, we're putting something in there called the State of the DAO, which is it's something where it kind of it reaches into something that we're all kind of working on, which is figuring out, like, presenting what is a DAO, like what is a DAO, what is the state of the DAO in the world now, what kind of impact can it make, in a research and media project. So just to share that there's some energy there, but this is like a holistic systems meeting. So I also want to I had a holistic systems agenda and all of that. The project is due tomorrow, so I guess my question for the folks is, Newman and Dominic, do you have like a strong sense that you want to like take this hour and work on this? Because you could go into a breakout room, and Justin and I can kind of do holistic systems talk and all that.
Why don't we do a group check-in, just see where everyone's at, and Justin can share where he's at, and maybe Justin needs all of us together, because you're right, it is a holistic system session, and Newman just needs to share that file, and then I've got 30 minutes of his brain just blah.
So. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. And there's some exciting holistic system stuff, but I'm not married to any one particular outcome. So, but I think your idea is great, Dom. Why don't we do that? Yeah, why don't we just sort of see where everybody's at and do a quick round of check-ins? Who feels inspired to start?
I can go. This is a really energetic time. So for the human heartbeat is like increased. Whenever there's a deadline, it's sort of like, in a way I love it because it like it motivates me, and then in a way I hate it because it's just like, why, come on, it's just, it's kind of an external force. But it's exciting time in the the ecosystem that I'm working in, this Project Catalyst, Cardano, and then it excites me, and I'll just finish it up because it excites me that all of these, there's so many different projects and people, and we're all there at the event, and it's like a new opportunity to it's like the Olympic Games. It's just like, oh, we're here to like show off our ideas, and like it's a competition in a way, but it's also like the infinite game, the Simon Sinek, like your worthy opponent and your just cause. It's just like, yeah, this is the thing I want to work on. I want to work on DAOs and how people get together and collaborate. So it's a cool justification, and then to find people that are also in that and are doing that sort of thing. So it's cool. Yeah, so that's where I'm at. Rob,
you.
how about you? Where are you at today?
Where am I at? Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm coming in, I'm pretty, as far as like stuff that I'm doing, my projects that I'm on and everything. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on, so I'm pretty maxed out with all of that. It's exciting stuff, and I'm in this Haifa role now, and that's playing in with what we're talking about here. In this state of the DAO thing, and it's also playing in directly with holistic systems. And there's I'm excited about coordinate and getting people into that. I think that has a lot of potential. And I had a conversation with somebody from Haifa just like as a check-in around what we were doing there, but also asking him about like DAOs and about holistic systems and about this idea of sort of creating a separate DAO for like this services entity. And he just kind of like reeled off, like we just started getting into kind of like these, like the DAO, like the tokenomics of how holistic systems might work as a value exchange, collaborative. And it was amazing. Like, it's not something that I had been thinking about, but like taking it from where we're at and coordinate and then putting it into like, it's sort of the next step, that I hadn't, just saying, hey, does this step work? And the next step being like, okay, we have these tokens, that we're giving to each other. And then how do we, use those as currency? And I'm just like, whoa, there's like a way this thing could actually work. So I don't need to get into all that, but I was like, wow.
Dude, I would love it if you got into a bit of all that, maybe after we finish, but super interesting.
Yeah. And it's fascinating. It's really fascinating to talk with him and to talk with some other people that like, this is how I'm thinking of it, that like really know what a DAO like is, like really know how a DAO works, like, because I know it, but I don't really know it. There's a lot to it. There's some complexity, and I think there's a big learning curve. And so it's cool to talk to somebody that I feel like really has like the understanding on all these levels, like the technical levels and the tokenomic levels, and the how those all work and play, in coordination levels. And I think we're all learning that, but it's really fascinating. So that's where I'm at.
Nice.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Justin or Dom?
I'm happy to jump in. I wanted to take down a note because you just gave me an idea for our application. Actually, I think about like really iterating that our project, our website, State of the DAO, can actually integrate many of the other projects from the open ecosystem. Because I've seen so many that are about like we want to help make an easy educational manuscript or like onboarding thing, and that can be featured on our website, State of the DAO, like brought right into it. So I just wanted to note that.
Cool.
But I mean, in general, I'm doing very well. I had such an interesting learning experience last week because I've been like the past weeks, I've been working very hard and I've been working like oftentimes till late at night, and I spend like quite a few hours on the computer to do so. And I had a really early morning, yet this was actually so the morning after the evening of our application submission, which went pretty late. I had to like go into Rio de Janeiro. I had to wake up early, like 5 a.m. in order to prep things to go. And later that day, I had like a holistic symptoms. That's what I told Rob. Like I had these different systems that all came together at the same time. Like a really intense headache, a high degree of fatigue, a fever. Those are like the main ones, and like a sore throat. And it was so intense that I actually just booked a hotel room in Rio because I couldn't even drive back to where I live, which is 2 hours away in the mountains. And it was so I was just exhausted. I got into the hotel room at like 2 p.m. and I just laid in the bed, but I couldn't sleep because my headache was so bad. Just like I've never had a migraine before. But it was straight up migraine and I couldn't sleep. And I was there with like my daughter and my wife, and and I was just trying to sleep. And I don't know, the hours just passed. And like before I knew it, it was like 8 p.m. And then it was like I was kind of going to sleep. And then, it was like 7 in the morning. But I woke up throughout the evening, blah, blah, blah. But it continued for a few days. And through the weekend, it just kind of like weaned off. And actually, I picked up other symptoms too, like even some digestive stuff, like cleaning out. And it was such a good message to me because earlier in the week I'd actually had a conversation with a peer of mine, an artistic peer, and we had he's like a musical artist. We were discussing like pushing the boundaries of limits or like learning to operate from within the limits of what is good practice. And coming out of it, I was like, yeah, let's play the limitless game. Like I'm in that vibe. Like I have a lot of shit to work through. And like I received this holistic symptom, and I don't think it was bacterial or viral. I was just like, oh, like great message. I get it. It's not the time to do that. And so I don't know, it's like funny. It was like painful and suffering, but it was almost like like I almost thought it was wonderful. And like even through it, I was just observing, I was like really meditating on how my sensibility is so different by the fluctuation of just like my psychosomatic state. And like I was just thinking such different, it was almost psychedelic during the migraine. And like I was just having such different thoughts. I was connecting with my wife in different ways. And I was like, I was really appreciating that. So I don't know, it was like a really good experience. It was like gnarly too. Um, and then otherwise, I have like some interesting projects that are all sort of coming to like their first phase of solidification and are now in moments of um, broader outreach to strategic partners. And a lot of like I have just a few different streams of communicate or like lines of communication with like some very important people, like maybe like 7 to 9, and they're all going like such different directions. It's a curious moment. And then what else? I mean, uh, you know, Christmas, holiday season, some to do things off the list. I don't find it stressful at all. I find it wonderful. Like today, I have like 10 cards going out to all the family, drop them off at the mail office and send them and like, cool, like that part's done. And like, so yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah,
Thanks,
Christmas
Tom.
cards. Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, a bunch of stuff.
Uh, Justin,
Please.
I hope holistic symptoms doesn't catch on. I mean, it's really catchy, but also I feel like it's probably not what you want.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I guess you don't, yeah. But I really appreciate it. Yeah, hearing you guys check in, and I'm pretty well too. I can relate to both feeling like really excited about work and kind of finding right ways to go deeper, but feeling like where I'm actually at and what I can handle. Like, taking a lot of knowledge and information in, seeing a lot of possibilities, but really trying to be in a practice right now of a boundary relationship. You see on my main body of work, which is the huddle that we're hosting. It's kind of 6-month learning journey. And kind of stepped away from most organizations and other bodies of work. So left Seeds and putting up some new boundary relationships and other organizations I was kind of pretty much volunteering at in order to kind of, focus on giving myself the time and space to structure my life in a way that allows for me to be able to be more responsive to what is naturally arising in me and around me, and not being so subject to the rhythm patterns of others. Not in a negative way, but just in like because it feels really important at this time for me. I read this article. It's a paper, and probably not for this moment, but I'll share it here. Because it's called Open Problems in DAOs, and it was just released like less than a month ago. But it's one of the best papers I've read about the current state of DAOs and the possibility and presence. It takes a very academic, like Harvard, Oxford kind of language and speaks about DAOs. So it just makes all the things that are kind of ephemeral and hard to pin down about what are happening. It gives them a really kind of core and clean language. And so it's a bit of a dense read, but it's pretty great. And so if you're into that kind of stuff, that may be good for you for the website or something like that in the near future, or finding some collaborators, or just figuring out how to talk about the things that you guys care about. I don't want to share anything else. I think what brought me here today was I wanted to check in and see how things were. I don't really have like a big need, so whatever you guys are doing in your flow, don't want to interrupt it at all. If I can contribute, I will. I may hop off and go to get a workout in before our call tonight at 6. Get my swim on at some point in time too. I have a buddy though who's like got a project that it's very early idea stages, and it's about like women networked, so helping achieved women leaders connect with upcoming women entrepreneurs through kind of finite task exchange that allows for them to be able to properly empower each other, right? So like I can, if one phone call would change your life or one email would change your whole business, how can you help the people who can give you that access be able to connect each other? And Holistic Systems membership portal came to mind, and some of the things you guys are designing and exploring. And so I just wanted to kind of just tune into like, it's not here yet, but maybe in time when as it's developing, maybe there's some way where what you guys have been exploring, or what is continuing to be explored, can be prototyped or applied or be used as a test case to be able to see how these two populations of women can be able to name their needs, their wants, their opportunities, and be able to have this exchange happen in a way that works. So it's very different than like the internal membership portal, but it felt parallel to it. And so it's just something that sparked me to just wanted to check in and see how things were, especially because we were talking about how, something like that could be developed in an agency model where the development happens through kind of the networked use of people. So you have a social media marketer, you have an engineer, you have you put a woman founder in the middle, because he doesn't want to be the founder, he just wants to bring the idea forward. So how do you have like a venture studio model of the development, something like this, in a way that works? And that felt really interesting, kind of aligned here too. So that's what kind of motivated me. And a message from Rob yesterday. So I just can see how things were.
Hey, Justin, I really want to because that during my check-in, I was just like, yeah, this is like it's such like a external stimulus, like it is like a boundary that I've kind of let in because I work with Project Catalyst, and then, to have other folks and sort of recognize, actually it was Dominic that was like, oh no, this is a value. This is, you have like, like that reputation and all that knowledge that you've built up. Like that's important to me as somebody that's brand new. And so that gave me a lot of energy, and which is interesting. But I love the fact that you've have made this commitment and set these boundaries to work on the huddle and sort of keep it into yourself, like you keep in your system and not get far away. Hey, Natalie. And then Dominic with the cosmic what do you call it? The holistic symptoms.
Holistic symptoms, yeah.
Which I think is really great. I've often experienced that, where you're sick and you're feeling like, but then there's that like weird fever dream, you're like, oh wow, yeah, just like different, almost like a psychedelic state, and you're just like, if you can, because it is unpleasant, but then you get all these other things like connecting in a different way, seeing things and appreciating it. That actually is one of the things that gets me through a lot of sickness. It's like, when I'm finished with this, like life is going to be brighter. Life is going to be, I'm just going to love sitting down and having a glass of milk, or, whatever. Like everything is nicer. It's just like, oh, I'm going through this process. Yeah. Yeah. So thanks for those check-ins.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks, Justin. Yeah, I appreciate hearing where you're at. And right, Justin got a small shout out in the weekly email yesterday. Yeah, because it was about, right, like this, it was about this idea that he keeps coming up, which of course it does, of like, are we calling these, is it needs and offerings? Is it requests and offerings? Is it opportunities and offerings? And yeah, it's interesting. It was an interesting exploration to think about that, and write that. And I think that's something that's going to continue to be an exploration. It's fascinating, right? Because it's just about, it's like, well, what's the name? But like that, like nobody, like everybody's like, yeah, you're offering. Okay, great. Like there's no discussion around that, at all. So it's, so it's like, okay, well, it's, but then like our need, and what do we call that? And what does that mean? So it's really fascinating to see that, the energy around that. And yeah, and Justin, I'd be happy to, to sort of like share, or, we as a group can also, share kind of where Holistic Systems is at and give you a little bit of an update. I think that would, play into kind of what we're, some of what I had in mind anyways, looking at, and we don't have to spend, the whole meeting on that, but if people are up for that, that's something we can do. And I can share a little bit about that, the whole possible next steps, tokenomics and DAO, steps as well. But first, Natalia is here. And would love to get a check-in from you if you'd like.
Nice. You found my coordinate name.
Wait, that's your coordinate and your Project Cardano name.
Sweet.
Oh,
Natalia.
Yeah, Nateo. I think it means links in Navajo. Anyways, hi, nice to see you all. I just came out of a course, The Language of Emotions, and I'll just share some of my notes because it's really fascinating to consider that emotions predate humans. Never thought of that before, but it makes sense because if plants and animals potentially feel emotions, and they've been here a lot longer than we have. Messages from the soul is what emotions can become. And dynamic emotional integration is essential because your emotions have witnessed everything. And it's not that emotions are the problem, but they point to the trouble, and they can bring gifts to help you solve whatever it is. So emotions are your native language. When emotions know that you're listening, they'll get louder. And it's hard to be skilled at that when you cannot name emotions. So the more words you have for emotions, the more you can identify, much like the Sami or Eskimos, who can see so many colors of white because of all the different, their awareness of all the different types of snow. So and one note that was really profound for me today was that usually your first wave of emotions is like, it's the truth. but that does not mean it's always right. So that was interesting for me.
Mm. I love
Thank
that.
you.
What else? Keep going.
Yeah,
What
right?
else? Now
Yeah.
you got my attention.
Yeah, and that part about the first wave of emotions holds the truth, but it's not always right. For me, that's a perspective switch because I value truth a lot, and it was always very confused why my emotions created so much like discord in interactions with other human beings. And it's not that that person doesn't value truth or they can't see the truth or devaluing my truth. I think that's what was really grinding for me. It was that the emotions needed time to like process and evolve eternally before I could involve like other members, other people in order to find the right path. So yeah, that's side note. I know emotions, I don't know how much they play into needs and offerings, but I imagine on some level they're probably operating a lot of actions in all levels of human behavior. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I mean, emotional needs and offerings. I mean, we have them, right? Like, yeah, and then an emotional offering, like it's sort of non-technical, might be, but I think HSC is big enough to cover that. And actually, as I was listening, I was like, yeah, I really do appreciate like just the human heartbeat of it. It's part of one of the things that we do, which, by the way,
Oh yeah, 3 4. How's that? That is the the horn to sound right there. Our transition from the human heartbeat portion of the meeting to the structural heartbeat portion. Yeah. So I think we're right on time. That's perfect timing. Yeah. Thank you all. But I think that's it could be a good segue, because I think in this kind of exploration, the last week, right, that's one of these things that was highlighted a little bit, was how we're exchanging value, and we're trying to do that and include different, like all of the 8 types of capital, all the kinds of value, right? And some of that is like, we have emotional needs, right? So so if somebody is skilled at helping someone else work with their emotional needs, then that's like, it's a big offering. And so, and it could be, right? So there's a whole realm, of like, it doesn't even have to be like a healing practitioner, but that allows like a whole realm, of people, to come in, and that's a whole realm of entrepreneurs, and ones that I'm really familiar with, right? There's like healers and helpers, and because, right, if you have like a in this sort of in this cooperative, right, if you have like a developer, like they can usually, that's a skill set, right, that can usually demand a good dollar amount, but that developer might really need like help with like emotional help, right? I mean, yes, they can go and see a therapist or something, but there's a way where all of those, like how can we, and yeah, this may be, going into some of the, like some of these new ideas of how we can actually facilitate it, like the currency of value exchange. But yeah, so I want to check in and really see, just get, before I sort of jump into anything, kind of get a pulse, so really, like, I would
love
love
that you
to.
brought that in. I just wanted to say, I love what you brought in. That has stimulated so many interesting things. Really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Well, I mean, my thought is to sort of just, go through, take the pulse on where the, holistic systems is at now. I could share, just with the group and, and also, letting Justin know where things are at with Coordinate. We could even, take a look, Dom, if you wanted to join that. And then also really, talking about the value sharing. I mean, I have been, I've got some updates on like, the facilitation of the value exchange, so I can kind of share that and then we can just go from there. How does that sound to folks? Dom?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
But Natalie, was like one of your things there saying like, I don't know how this goes on the needs and offers boards? Is that like a question about like how is that a skill set?
Yeah, it was kind of like I was questioning like, why am I sharing this with this group? Is it valid?
Yeah,
I
I mean,
put
just
the lady who was running the workshop, her name is Carla McLaren. Her book is in there, and that's emotions in a workplace. So I guess that it is valid, and Rob helped answer some of that, and Newman too. So
yeah, well, I was just gonna mention this kind of like Rob made me think of this. Like when I reflect on emotions, I see them as being one of the most essential modalities or tools that we have as souls to connect with life. Along with like, logic is a big one, and so are emotions. And so I think that what it provide like someone who is really emotionally aware and adept, it puts you in a really good position for certain like services. And so like what comes to mind, I always, I see the soul has sort of four primary ways of contact with life, and two of them are moral and aesthetic. And I think that like the more like that space of like how are the emotions best leveraged, I see them so well leveraged in like, art, branding, rhetoric, HR, which is why it connects to therapy and psychology. I mean, rhetoric is so important there because like even if you look at like, philosophy, philosophers will give you like all of their little logical systems, but at the end of the day, they have to make it beautiful so that it can get transmitted to people and be received at a certain frequency. That requires emotional awareness and like sensitivity to the social frequency. So I see like that question of like how are emotions like leveraged? It's like recognizing, okay, this like essential human modality, one of our primary modes of connection with life. There's a whole field where that best supports. And I'd say logic goes in a different way, right? Like engineering, science, computer science, like logic just has different, or like accounting and mathematics, it fits a different type of bill. And so I don't know, it's really beautiful. And I think that emotions are really like, I mean, I think when you look at Joe Biden, it's like, or president, so much of what they do is really emotional management. They see all of these issues flaring up and they have to be like, okay, like, how do I balance it to maintain like this really delicate order? And that's just emotional EQ.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's like we have to like make sure the resources are well balanced, on our books. But like at the same time, I need to touch the right nodes in order to like win this election or keep the calm, maintain peace. I need to say these words because I know we'll touch people this way. So, no, yeah, I think it's more essential than like an offering, but it creates marvelous offerings, and it can be an offering purely. Like, hey, if you want, but then I would view that as like therapy, almost like soulcraft therapy.
nice.
So thanks
Very
for
cool.
bringing all that up. I love that. Yeah.
Thank you for the reflection. That was great.
And
Yeah,
I feel,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, well, just, I feel that HSC is because of that, because of the, healers, helpers, and visionaries, like because of that foundation, like I feel like that's a spot where this can be. It feels natural in this environment, just from the things that we've done and how we do. You know, from like as the evidence being like the structure of our meetings. We start with the human heartbeat. This is where we start, you know? And I love the fact, and I just kind of got it. I was like, oh yeah, we're all going through an experience, and we all feel comfortable to come in and check in and get this, you know, social, like, you know, bit of time to unload it or to express it, you know, whether it's you know, sort of a positive or negative, or, you know, rational or the, you know, like it's whichever part of us, like we feel whole, you know, like this is a holistic organization. Well, it's in the name. You know.
Yeah. Justin, any thoughts coming in before I start like popping off about it, about all this stuff? All right, you're good. You're good. Well, all right, good. I think that's a good. It's a great transition, you know, or segue that Newman gave me, which is always good. You know, gets get the assist. Yeah, because you know, like in this conversation I was having, right? Like it's still, I think, you know, that holistic systems, you know, if it works, it's at the base and the foundation, you know, is going to be the culture, right? Because, you know, even if we're talking about, okay, we start saying, okay, now we're getting into tokenomics, and now we're getting into like, you know, value exchange where, you know, somebody can exchange the token for fiat money, that kind of thing. Like, you know, and getting into larger groups of people. I think if the, you know, if the culture isn't strong and doesn't lead, you know, then I don't know that it's gonna work or gonna be, you know, what it is that we're envisioning. So yeah, so I love that. And I think that the, you know, the culture, you know, I mean, you know, it's here with the people who are here. So yeah, thank you everybody for that. And you know, it's so how to then, you know, I think that you know, as I've gone along, I'll share my screen, you know, I'm thinking that, you know, a lot of my task has been, you know, getting some clarity, you know, is that it's you know, it's like, what are the platforms that can facilitate this, right? So if we have the culture and we have the desire, you know, how do we facilitate it? And actually, Dom, that it sprung in earlier today. I was like, you know, because I didn't want to, you know, we're talking about, okay, like having people join Project Catalyst and get them to give us kudos, you know, and I asked a few people here, and it was like, why am I having resistance to just like, you know, to you know, making that ask of more people? And then I realized, oh, it's because I'm already making like huge asks to lots of people to say, hey, will you try this platform out? Join this platform, you know? So I'm sort of like, oh, okay. Yeah. And so that's a lot of, you know, what I'm doing, right? So I'm saying, okay, Notion, and now, you know, I definitely would love, you know, feedback after I kind of share, because, you know, right now where we're at, okay, we have this Notion member portal. You know, the value exchange contribution log is kind of going away, right? The heart of it is still the needs and offerings. So, you know, everything is valid here. So I'm really trying to think, okay, well, you know, how long do we stay with Notion, and how long do we look to jump to another platform that's probably going to be more user friendly, you know, to facilitate, you know, like everything else, you know, because right now we've got Notion, we've got Discord, and now we're bringing in Coordinate, you know, so trying to figure out what the tech stack is, you know, to facilitate all of this, you know, right. So still the heart, I think, is the needs and offerings page. We need to get people in there, but then the next step, right, is Coordinate. So, you know, here I can put a link. Why don't I do that for Dom? So, and I won't go into like presenting it, because I know you know, I did that in one of the meetings. Let me see, invite link. I'm just going to put this in the chat. I'm very excited about it still, about Coordinate. So, you know, we've everybody puts in their activity, like what their contributions. These are mine. This is just kind of like the activity feed for contributions. And this is where, this is kind of the heart, I think, of this is like, each of us has a certain amount of, like, they're calling it give tokens. Each of us has a certain amount of tokens, we're saying 100 every epoch. So that could be every 2 weeks, every month. And, at the end of the month, everybody, shares however much give with people who they really feel like, contributed a lot, to either to the group or to them personally. So, if Newman, right, he's going to list all his contributions, right? Just like I listed all my contributions. Okay. I sent out emails, I facilitated a meeting, right? But this is also going to be, specific to value exchange. So, if Zoe helps me with social media, and then I, that's about, value exchange, right? So if Zoe's, giving me 3 hours of, a week of that, then I'm going to be inclined to, give a lot of give to her. But there's an error with the map. So there's this like value exchange map, which is very cool. When people start doing it, you can see who's giving back and forth. So what came up in this conversation, all right, before I go there, then there's, the last piece really, which is the DAO, right? So, which is Holistic Systems Cooperative, that's right now on, in the Haifa DAO ecosystem, with all these other DAOs. And really the heart and soul of Haifa, and this is kind of coming through more, as what wants to be expressed, isn't just that it's like a DAO ecosystem that's on a blockchain or just like a platform, but more that, it's essentially, it is this like bigger value exchange, ecosystem, right? So where, Justin can have the Huddle DAO, and Natalie is involved in a DAO, right? And so then we can all be exchanging, and sharing value with each other there, sharing members. So the idea of what could happen, right, is if we utilize coordinate, right? So if we utilize coordinate, it's kind of just an in-between, right? Because it's a recipient-based value evaluation method. So so basically we're saying, that's like a big part of the kind of the reinculturation. We're saying instead of like, us having, instead of this kind of market system, which is like, okay, I have to figure out now, how much value my work, as a marketing expert is compared to my work, as like, person who can just hold space for somebody in conversation versus whatever. It's recipient based. So then, what could happen is that at the end of each epoch, right, like you just take these give and you can, you can basically just, put it out on a spreadsheet, or this is all, is on the blockchain, and basically just turn it into co-op tokens, right? And then, so then the kind of new idea that's coming through, right, is how does this like scale, to a level where we start to get that like a network effect happening? Because if we have like a smaller group, like we have this group, there's maybe 10 or 12 or 15 people, who are, really, interested in this, and so if we have that kind of group exchanging value, right, it's easy to establish trust and reputation, but we may not, like the point of it is that like there has to be something that's going to meet our need. Everybody really does, at the end, need to have their some kind of need met, right? and which means that there have to be sort of enough people with a certain offering. So how are people kind of, you know, incentivized to come and join the value exchange that might not be as, you know, that might not have the same level of commitment to like the base ideals, you know, as we do, or that's just might not be where their, you know, like where their time is. So in other words, you know, we're probably all here because we want to be here, because we believe in collaboration. We believe in really wanting to explore and figure out how to make that happen. And other people, I think, to join this need, I would say, need to have that same ethos as well. But they might, you know, not like, you know, there's a lot of places where you can explore that, you know, so how to make something that's where we can explore this together can be really valuable. So, you know, so this, you know, this person I was talking with is, you know, basically talked about, okay, then what is, you know, after the next step after this kind of give is, you know, is like, I'm trying to, you know, I haven't sort of pieced it all together, and Dom, I see your hand, but I just want to get through this last piece. You know, is how do then we take that value exchange? So whether we keep it as a give or it's a co-op token, whatever it is, like then how do we exchange value, you know, as a currency? You know, that, and so the idea, you know, that what this person said was, he's like, okay, well that co-op token has to be like, you know, understood to everybody. You know, it's more helpful if it's clear what that is, right? And he's like, you know, it can just be worth an hour, right? And I was trying to sort of stay away from like, you know, the hour, you know, being equal. But if it's an hour, if I have one co-op token and it's sort of worth 1 hour of somebody's time, you know, whatever they're doing, that's something that everybody can kind of understand and wrap their head around, right? So if I'm contributing an hour of my time, you know, then I'm going to get, you know, like, you know, roughly an hour of a co-op token back, you know, so that way I know what value that has. Oh, I think Dom had to jump off. That was probably what he was raising his hand for. Anyways, so there's a way where, you know, like not everybody's, you know, hour sort of, you know, might be valued equally, you know, so there's this sort of like problem that I have in my mind, you know, of like, I call it like the lawyer space holder problem, right? You know, so like in our society, like a lawyer, you know, like it is really valuable, right? Like a lot of people would want to use that, right? And somebody who can like help someone hold space, you know, for their emotions, like I think that's really valuable too. You know, but a lawyer might not be willing to you know, put in their time, you know, just, like what is the motivation for the lawyer? And so there's a way where if you combine kind of that token being worth an hour of time, and then you know, the coordinate the recipient based you know, like evaluation, like if you have a group of people here and one of these folks, you know, is a lawyer, like people might be inclined to like give that person more give, because it benefits them to have that lawyer, to have her or them, you know, in the group. And so then if that, you know, if that lawyer, even if they don't contribute as much, you know, if they only contribute like 1 hour a month, but they might get, you know, 3 co-op tokens for it, you know, for that, you know, then, you know, that's the group saying, hey, you know, we value, you know, what you're bringing. And then the last piece, you know, and again, this is, you know, something, right, this all has to be fleshed out. And the last piece is like, you know, if you know, can these tokens then be exchanged for fiat money? Because then that gives, whether, you know, the system works, you know, ends up working or not, you know, if the tokenomics work, then that allows there to be like this was a term I didn't really, but like allows us to be an exit, right? So someone can go and they can be, you know, earning co-op tokens and using co-op tokens, but they can also have the ability, right? And those the ability to pay, right? So if somebody doesn't have a lot of time, but they still want, some value, then they can pay, they can put into the middle of the treasury. And then that treasury builds up, and then you have that treasury as a resource pool as well. And then, then somebody says, okay, well, if I put in a bunch of time, and then I don't end up like, getting as many exchanges back or using that, I'm not going to just be like left there, with that. Like I can then actually cash that out. And then that co-op token becomes, again, the utility token of the group, so that's, and then that's what brings in value. And then that hopefully is what brings in more people, which is what creates the network effect. So, thank you for bearing with me on that. I haven't like dug into it yet and diagrammed it all. So I haven't, haven't figured it out. But that's kind of some place where we could go, but it's not where we're at now. And I think, I'd just love to, hear any thoughts if folks have thoughts. And I'd love to hear, if folks have any feedback, on the current platforms. I'd love to hear that too. So thanks for bearing with me.
I'm super stoked about Coordinate. I'm actually working on it right now. I'm giving a note to Natayo, and I really like this platform. I think it can take us pretty far. I love the evolution of it, and definitely see like where it could get better. And it's better than our last iteration. So
yeah, the spreadsheet.
Yeah, the spreadsheet. Well, that map and the little things going and the animations, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I do have to take off. They are calling for me. I will see you next time. Give me a holler, and we'll talk later.
All right, awesome. Thanks,
Bye,
Newman.
all. Thank you.
Bye, thanks.
Well.
We're gonna run soon too. Or run, I guess, as well. But I can say, Rob, that yeah, what I can also say that say like yeah, there's a lot of logic in the system that you're kind of designing. And I think it's asking a lot of very right questions. I also thought Coordinate was really cool when I as a platform. And I think the thing that my internal compass is like kind of is calibrating. So it's trying to find the right the things that matter here. But yeah, it seems really important that there's like then the context of all this, there's still that discovery of like the right body of work that kind of activates everyone into coordination around something. I noticed that one of the assumptions is like the exchange between individuals, needs and opportunities and talents and skill sets. But also there's this organizational context that's there too, right? And the organizational center seems like it's still kind of in development. Like the holistic systems cooperative as a ethos, I think is very resonant with people. I think the center, the kind of living core, or like the core body of work is still developing. And I don't think it is the systems. I don't think it's the tokenomics. And I don't think it's the value exchange or all those things that kind of help to build out that ethos of holistic systems cooperative, right? The thing itself feels like it's still developing, and I think that feels really critical. And also I think it feels in deep relationship with you and what you do and how you and what you really want to see come about in the world. yeah, it's good to hear you, good to see you, good to be with you. And yeah, I think, like I said, one of my buddies, if there's like a chance to get a few people together around something like this, empower her network, if that thing wants to be built, it could be an interesting uh, project to try out some of these things on. Which I think is like, when I say I kind of find a common center, I think that's the trick, is like finding a project by which the exchange can happen, by which people are coordinating around, and it can't be the organization itself. I don't think it could be that, but I think it doesn't quite work because it's almost too meta. I think it has to be something very discrete. Maybe it's the Cardano thing. I don't know, but with the state of the DAO as a website, because you need social media marketing, you need, design, you need some type of whatever. I don't know what you need to run that thing, but that could be the project. But just it really felt really true that having something that people can rally behind and also organize around and coordinate around felt really important. I think it's really hard to do that when it's the organization itself, because it becomes kind of meta and kind of too I just think that's oftentimes what DAOs get caught up in, or kind of things in Web3 too. Like I think it's a challenging thing to energize people around over the long term.
Yeah, so can you say that again? I just want to make sure I'm understanding, because I'm I think that there's there's wisdom coming through. I want to make sure that so that would you mind saying that kind of? Because you're talking about like like the difference between kind of the organization and then
it's like so what I understand is like part of what the membership portal is, part of what Coordinape is doing, it's looking to coordinate around or have membership be attracted to as a community. So it's using community as the organizational layer by which people begin to be energized and coordinate around that. But that's really hard to do because it's too reliant on the network effect. It's not, it's like it's a very hard thing to get people consistently energized about building an organization. Pretty much only founders and kind of people who love organizational design are going to be consistently energized by that and be able to do so persistently. But if you have like a client or a project or something that has a fixed amount of time with a clear aligned to your ethos that people can actually, so you have your, I forgot her name, but social media marketing from Brazil, and you have
Zoe.
Where you can not just her, but also when you have the chance to give people something in a fixed amount of time that has a very clear purpose, not like large purpose, but like purpose. And they can practice using the different organizational systems by which to approach that. So because we have this project we're using Coordinape for this project, right? And this is how, so if that, and then you can experiment and try them, but using Coordinape on the community layer as the organizational kind of, it's meta. And it's I think it's hard to keep the energy going in that because it doesn't work the same. I don't know why, but I noticed that it doesn't work the same. And so I just want to kind of say that I think that finding that right initiative or project or focal point, I think can really help to test and experiment with some of the ways holistic systems cooperates and approaches things holistically. As these things that are there, the ethos can kind of find its application, and that can be kind of the coordinating mechanism or a place of coordination. And I was just noticing that was kind of the possibility of that is here, but the thing itself has not yet been chosen or decided upon or centered. And I think that just feels like some place to be aware of, because you can easily really, people oftentimes get really stuck in trying to build the organization, but they're not having that thing that they're working on yet, and then they kind of get stuck in a lot of in loops.
Hmm.
Not, yeah, not non-progressive.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I
Yeah.
get, I feel like I get what you're saying now. Yeah, yeah. So thank you for sharing a little bit more about that. Yeah, it's really helpful. And I get it. That's interesting, right? And you just, yeah. So I really appreciate these thoughts and ideas, that you bring in, because yeah, it's I don't know, like I don't know that I was, that I was fully thinking about it that way, or about but I yeah, I hear what you're saying, right? If there's a specific kind of project to come in, and say, oh, we've got this goal, but we need a way to coordinate it, and we need that's going to match with our ethos, right? Then that's actually something that people are energized to do, and go into it and explore and experiment, even though they may not, they may do that and then pop out.
It's what the coordinate or whatever it is helps with. So you have the capacity to coordinate that type of coming in and coming out, but you can do so in a way that works for your organization and that kind of stuff, right? So as a founder, as a lead organizer, however you want to hold that, there is a lot of that kind of operational responsibility that comes with this, which you probably want to minimize, but also as a part of what I think you like to have. It feels like some of the creativity capacity that you're exploring right now, right? And people may want to be in that and support that, but it's something very different, I think, than the actual project or work that people can coordinate around to do. Very few people I find have the capacity to over time to stay with continuous organizational, operational innovation and exploration. It's a hard place to keep people. Yeah.
Mm.
That's a mouthful.
Right.
I think one of the reasons we're in this place is because we had that awareness that money is a dominant focus. It's easy to like get work done and get people applied to it when there's money involved. It's like, oh, you're gonna get this much pay for this much work done, right? So stepping out of that paradigm, we started looking at needs and offerings. Where else is there value amongst a community? And then the hopes is that practicing in the community layer, exchanging value in different forms, increases the portfolio of an individual's ability to recognize where exchange can take place. But it is meta. It is, yeah, I get exactly what you're saying, because often, yeah, it's much easier to track yeah, a project based on yeah, operations and roles and and the only place I know that is companies that are, yeah, paying consultants and whatever. But yeah, that's definitely something to food for thought. Hey, Rob?
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe that's something, I think when I was sharing, I sort of skipped over a little bit the idea. I don't know this exactly the same. And Justin, whenever you need to go, I don't, of course. But like that, there is, one thing I want to do, it feels like a good next step, no matter what, is to create this sort of separate entity DAO, of whether it's a DAO or not, but it seems like it makes sense to do that, of holistic systems services, right? So you have holistic systems cooperative and you have holistic systems services. And so that way, if there's anybody who does want to team up, if Zoe and I say, oh, well, we've got this like really great like service that we can offer, that we do together, it can go and that's for like for pay for money, it can go through that separate entity, so that way the cooperative doesn't have to be, like we can just be in our sandbox, and playing in that and not worrying about, okay, but I should get like 40%, and you should get, 50% or something. So, and right now it doesn't, like, I don't know that anything needs to go through there other than just like myself. I was like, well, I have clients and they're paying me, so I can run that through a DAO, turn it from money into tokens back into money. That's a good, it's a good just thing to practice anyways. Yeah, but I appreciate what you're saying, because it's like, it's meta, it's meta until it's not, but it needs a way to not be.
What comes, and this is not like, I'm not trying to speak like truth, because I don't know, like, I don't hold the truth to what to, like, like it's just, but my it's like my perspective I have, and I like, you don't need a DAO to receive crypto for your services, or even to work with like monetary exchange between a group of people in a decentralized way. Like the economy of a DAO, I mean, the brand of a DAO, like the DAO, they call them like, they call them like pretty much just the label of a DAO without actually being a DAO, as being like helpful for Web3 or for like, certain types of projects, but not, there's some in that article I shared, it has like they have like a particular word for it, but it's like, it's not really, you don't have to actually do all the DAO stuff. You just call what you do a DAO because it has the ethos of a DAO. And so you can have that, but just, when it comes to like monetary exchange system or receiving of services, you can use a blockchain, or you can use even using blockchain, you still don't have to have a DAO to use blockchain, obviously, right? So you can use blockchain, you can receive cryptocurrency, you can receive both fiat and cryptocurrency. You can do so in a way that is like in a cooperative model, which would be, again, like a kind of a decentralized member-owned organization. That's not, if you can call it a DAO, but it could actually operate as a business model, something different. I'm saying these things because it feels like what I, I think it's cool what I think having the different divisions of an organization feels really true. I talked to you, I think we talked about this the first time we talked, Robert, like there's a community layer where it's like everyone and open and possible, where you can kind of communicate and like come together, and that feels like it's like human heartbeat, but also it can be social exchange, right? But then you have the next layer on top of that, which is agency. And the agency layer actually asks people in the community to elevate themselves, to be able to know what it is they do and what they offer, and then to be able to exchange that, not just with each other, but actually able to offer that out into the world as service. And just above that agency level is the venture level, which is a very high level development, where not only do I know I'm part of this community and I know what my skills are, but I'm actually able to apply my skill to a unique problem or project in the world, and I want to go out and solve that thing. And those are like developmental levels, but they can all exist under one organizational operational thing. So whoever is overseeing holistic systems cooperative will be running a venture, right? So right now, let's say this, you two, right? So you have this venturing that you're doing. The layer underneath that is, well, I have web development skills, or I'm a project manager, or I can facilitate good spaces, or I'm able to do, social emotional healing for founders. That can be an agency level. And then you have this community level that's more like where we come together and where we're meeting and where we're cultivating it and kind of attracting a much larger mass. It's kind of got a pyramidal vibe to it, although it's not sort of a natural hierarchy, because you're still sitting at the same point, right? Versus an unnatural hierarchy where you're putting people above each other. It's just the developmental hierarchy that's happening there. And I just offer that because, if you make the services a different organization and a different entity than the holistic systems cooperative, I think you're actually splitting you're taking your energy apart. You're dividing your energy up of yourself. Like it could fracture versus like fractal, or it could fracture versus kind of grow or develop. And so I want to do something, just a cautionary tell about that, because I think that sometimes it can be helpful to have the right boundaries from requirements, but also kind of be confusing. But if you see them, if you want to have a place in holistic systems cooperative, because I think it's still trying to figure out what it does, that takes on projects, that could still happen here, right? And if you actually find a project by which people, you can offer your services, whether it be through your clients or through someone else, but you can see like you have a good client, they have a little bit of money, they're facing a problem, but you can't offer what they need fully because you see an opportunity there. Then you have, you call in the social media, you call in the facilitator, and then now you're doing the work you want to do in this way by offering services. So I think that's the other kind of risk here. Not risk, but like, I'm gonna shut back to this, I'm sorry, but like the risk and opportunity is like, you know, Rob taking his client and not, you don't want to give that thing away to the community. Like, it's really dangerous. Don't do that, right? You can't do that, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. But finding people in the community who can support your ability to offer more service to your clients while also being able to bring more funding to you, to them, and to the organization, like that's a win. But that takes you having ownership of that responsibility and doing the coordination by which that happens in order to put or practice your approach in this moment. And that would be like my thing that I noticed is possible here, but not easy, but also kind of challenging is, you know, I don't, because that feels more, it just feels kind of like a different way of approaching or looking at what is here to do and how to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It fully makes sense. And I love that model. I mean, I remember you talking about that, and that was really, you know, that stuck with me. You know, like a lot of things you shared. Yeah, I mean, right. And I think that model is just like, it's just right, you know? And so then it's like, well, how, you know, like, then the question that I do not have the answer to, you know, is like, how to structure that, you know? So it's like, if it's in, you know, whether it's a like you say, a DAO or not, like, you know, because you know, two DAOs in like one sort of like DAO ecosystem aren't necessarily like separate entities. You know, they're like, they are separate, but then they're not necessarily separate. You know, so it's like, do you put it all in one, you know, in one entity, or like two, and even if you take that away, I think then it's like, okay, we'll take that model you're talking about, right? And how do you, that's the question that I'm just sitting with, you know, like, right, how do you structure that? How do I structure that? But how does that actually get coordinated? Because I think that was the challenge I had at first, was like, oh wait, I'm coordinating all of this for all these people, but I'm not getting paid to do that, you know, and nobody else is really like doing the coordinating. So that, yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
And I
that's
think
project
yeah.
management. Yeah, essentially, right? It's key. Yeah.
Yeah. But how to,
Go
so
ahead.
I want to hear what you're saying, but like, I think, Justin, the question that you're asking and like we're putting in here, I think is, you know, is juicy and is the right question, you know, which is how to coordinate all those stages. So that way that, you know, they can all be existing at the same time and feeding each other. Yeah, Natalie, you were.
I was just gonna say I've been watching my partner go through an onboarding process with as a consultant to a new company, and yeah, all the different components that are now joining this like fifth world team, they all held like sovereignty in their own, like, you know, one was a wood builder, one was an engineer, one was a designer, and but the driving force was, I guess, particular projects, but also having the promise of funds made it easy to begin to shift from like, well, this was my work, but this is more appealing. So that, and there also was hierarchy, right? There was people that held the position of seniority, and other people that held the position of like, well, we have all the money. So and then those that are like, we have all the expertise. And those people on, you know, that held the money and the expertise and the seniority, they're all stepping back. And now the consultant team is responsible for like the defining their needs and their offerings. Their like project management was like out the window. Like no one knew how to do anything, and it was very unorganized. And it became quite like, once that was honed and given like life, and the rest kind of came together. So the question that you're asking perhaps is like one of those bigger questions. How do we do that without such a, traditional centralized kind of hierarchy?
My sense is just like where I'm at in my own process, like trying to answer these questions in my own sense, in my own organization, and like, it's like I think if you're going to be in the world of money and finance and service delivery, those are all they all exist in a capitalistic society, and therefore they take you can take a modern approach, more creatively, more collaboratively, more caring, triple bottom line, whatever you want to think about, but it does take like, I'm wondering about, even in a DAO was established, $40 billion are circulating in DAOs right now, 4,000, I was like, or $81 billion in DAO. Like, the point of a DAO was, it's a money-making machine. It's a machine designed to exchange money without needing any human trust across boundaries and borders through liquidity pools in order to create more value flow for those who have money to invest in them, right? And so there's all this kind of extra stuff, but a DAO is an automated money-making machine and a new kind of financial technology called a blockchain. And it's even itself is not that it's ideal. It's not the ideals that we seek for. Well, it looks like we live in a different type of economic system, right? And so and not saying a DAO can't be more than that. I think it is. It challenged a lot of common perceptions, but it still says, like, there is still a centralized power in a DAO. It's the blockchain. Whatever technology you build on Cardano, if you build on EOS or Telos, that thing is governing so much of what you do. And then it is kind of decentralized, right? But you're still being deeply shaped by that. If you go for the Hypha platform versus Coordinate, you're still belonging to a centralized technology who is changing the way by which your organization operates, right? Because Coordinate is not like Hypha. And so the way that you look at tokenomics or the way you look at value exchange, all that's deeply shaped by the capacity of the platform itself. And so you still have a centralized power that's not yourself who is shaping what it is that you do. And so that part's kind of inescapable. It sounds negative, but I mean, it's kind of practical too, because then the thing that you want to do is bring your ideals and ethos into things that you can shape and change. So, Rob, if you're choosing to be like spearhead this project, as whatever it may be, it's like, okay, how can I? Thanks, Mom. How can I? I want to be paid more because I'm doing a lot of invisible work, and I want to make my invisible work visible, right? But if I'm going to do this, I want there to be proper value. But you can't let everyone that shows up on the calls now be paid the same as you, or expect everyone to govern themselves in a way that honors the work that you're doing if you don't set that up for yourself. As an example, right? That's just my feeling about it. It's like everyone who's hopping on calls won't know or care or have the capacity to even be with that, right? Or if you go, okay, the three people who have been getting the most time, Rob, Natalie, Newman, we're three all coming in at this base rate of value. Like, that's what we're choosing to be, right? And that is a design and a system choice. But what I mean by that is it does create hierarchy, but it's not negative. It could be really supportive of actually giving yourself what you need to deconstruct it in time. So I think what Natalie was describing was like you have this centralized power of hierarchy, and then they kind of decentralized that and brought these consultants in and said, okay, we have enough stability and structure here now to be able to actually see what this group of people can coordinate and figure out how to do based on their own set of skills and understanding. And so the same type of thing may be required here. It's just taking the power and the responsibility on, saying, okay, I'm gonna, I have this one project. I'm interested in seeing how it can work really well. I'm gonna run this experiment, right? Who wants to try to work on it? Do you have the capacity to do that? And it may be great. It may be terrible. It could be a terrible experience. You go, I don't know. I don't want everyone to have to manage 4 people and distribute it agency ever again. You may decide that work is not what you care to do, Rob. But but it just kind of being funny. But yeah, but
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No need to ever apologize for being funny or trying to be funny. Yeah. That wasn't me. Yeah. I'm just kind of taking that in. Yeah, this yeah, there's a lot there, Yeah, there's a lot there. It's one of these calls I'll have to re-listen to,
Okay, bye.
Thanks, Justin.
Yeah. But I think, I think one thing that like, if I sort of, step back and just try and, sort of like, step back into some more, into some, simplicity or trying to, wrap my head around it all, because there's a lot, right? There's a lot of different ways that like this could go. There's a lot of different ways that it could operate, and how to get there. But I think, one thing that, right, that you're saying that seems, clear or makes sense is like there wants to be like something, something coming in, right? Like if we call it that project or what, right? Like if you call it a project, you could call it, money. You can call it, but like something that's coming in that's going to, activate like the exploration. Not to say that's what has to happen, but like that could be an energizer. Like that could be something that actually like can move things forward.
And the capacity for just to be the organization itself is very limited. So only a certain amount of people can really get behind that for so long, I think, before energy kind of begins to dilute and kind of be lost.
Yeah.
I'll just high turnover.
Yeah. And I think the meta idea is that at a certain point it can be a self-coordinating machine. Right. I still think that's there, that, which is like that network effect, which is that idea that is, if there's enough, value that's in there, then it can start to self-coordinate, and it can start to, it can be its own generator. But, how to actually like get there. Yeah, I think that's what we're talking about. But I think that there is, right, like, if you have something, right, if there is some, like if there is a project, right, and I appreciate you thinking of, this particular project as a possibility, or even just if it's just thinking about it, and saying, oh, okay, this is something that might work for that, because I'm sure there are projects out there, organizations out there that are saying, yeah, we want to exchange value, we want to run our project and exchange the value in a non-traditional way, but we don't quite know how to do that. And you say, oh, well, there's this organism, there's an mechanism, that these folks are working on. You could, drop into there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even these group of consultants in the fifth world, you know, they're looking at ways of how to expand their 8 forms of capital. And I don't know, is it like, is it a workshop space, or is it a yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where it may need time to digest, chew on it for a while.
Yeah.
Spirit will bring the answer.
Yeah. I keep rolling along, as long as people keep showing up, then it's like,
So
all
funny.
right.
I was just saying to Kevin, I keep showing up because I really respect how Rob keeps rolling along. Like, you show up, like, and you have structure and like personal integrity, but then you're also very like kind and considerate to community. And so out of respect for, like, I think that's an honorable thing to do. I'm gonna keep showing up. Like, yeah. So it worked in some sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think, yeah, I appreciate that. And that's the people who are here, right? And I'm also exploring, as I go along, I'm talking with people and I'm discovering other groups, that have they're trying to do the same thing. And I think that's really valuable, and then that's another thing on my list, right, is to connect with those groups. Because we're here because of the primary purpose, we who are here now. So, right, so then it's just a matter of like trying to figure, sort of be like, okay, how are we facilitating this? And how are we, right? That base question, how are we supporting ourselves in this current system?
Right. I was watching a permaculture video, and he said that, like, the word regenerative gets abused all the time. So like, out of 1 to 10, level 1 is like no spray. It's like woohoo, but they're still like wasting water. They can do whatever else they want, but they get the label sustainable. And then like level 5 is maybe introducing like multiple diversity and multiple niches. Like level 10 is when it starts ecosystems form that sustain all life, right? And maybe that's, so you're in this process of like trying to figure out, how do I create that niche, that like ecosystem that can self-sustain and survive? And yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. That was great. You just did one of those Natalie things where you
Those nature things, yeah. Translating it through nature's lens, it really helps me. Yeah, those are the principles of our reality.
Yeah. No, thank you. It helps me too. It also helps me to kind of relax around it a little, because it's just like, oh yeah, it's a big goal. Like there's,
Justin, do you need to go? Yeah. We can like sing you an outro song if that helps.
We could sing you an outro song. Justin, thanks for coming to the meeting. It was really great.
Share your ideas. It was awesome.
Thank you for the outro. I appreciate that. I guess I'll slowly back away and close the door. I've never been outro before. I've been outed before. I've never been outro before. So I appreciate
nice. That's much more positive.
Yes, much better. I'll see you around.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Justin. Appreciate you coming and be in touch.
And I do appreciate Dominic's technique too. Like, raise the hand, give you a time limit, I'm out.
Yeah.
We probably had another meeting. It looked like it was at the top of the hour.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
usually does. I know, but I wasn't. Yeah, yeah. I was just like, I got to finish this thought. Fair enough. We get it. He
Yeah,
didn't get
different
he didn't get
styles.
outroed.
No, but I could see Justin wiggling, and he wanted to be respectful and polite. I was like, okay.
It's awesome. Yeah, well, that's good, right? That's one of those things about getting to, know people and they're,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, I bet it's going back to like the emotion thing. Like, after hearing everything you did today, can you even identify like what's come up for you?
on an emotional level, or
Yeah.
just,
We're practicing the art of naming emotions.
yeah. Yeah. And it's a good art. I know for me, like
Mhm.
emotions aren't like my body's sort of go-to mechanism.
Me neither. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, like being able to label them. So connecting that like intellectual component to like the what the body is feeling is not always there. And I often not use, but have when it's reflected to me by other people, like Mary Ellen or then it's like, oh, that's what I was feeling. It makes sense now. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, full on. I know. Yeah, I didn't know for a long time. I was like, I was, it's like a big discovery. I'm like, wait, I have emotions, but I have an emotional body, right? Because I learned even before, like that, it's like there's like I have an energetic body. Oh, okay,
Right.
that's interesting. I didn't know that. I have an energetic body. Oh, I have like an emotional body too.
Hmm.
Even that's a good thing to know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's, like today it's fun. Sometimes it's a little, like emotion can be a little overwhelming, when we're talking about these big things and these big pieces and
Heck yeah.
trying to put these together, right? And what, yeah.
Yeah, especially with those like ambiguous kind of like blobs in there. You're like, something needs to be there, but what is that? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think, I mean, some of it, I think it's just, I mean, I know this is not an emotional level, but some of it, I try and, as far as holistic systems, I try and just come back to like, okay, where's my, uh, bring it into like the bigger movement, right? There's a movement going on.
Yes.
And, so like, what's my place there? Where am I needed? And and okay, it's holistic systems, it seems like there's energy for it, right? And there's people interested in it. And so it's not like necessarily about holistic systems, but it's like about what, the larger piece, like, okay, what we're doing here, what we're trying to accomplish, we as a group. And so then what's my, it's like, okay, well, obviously like my passion and love, is like trying to coordinate this, trying to coordinate and facilitate like this different kind of value exchange. So I think if things get overwhelming, there's the reason I say that, yeah, is they get over, then I try and come back and ground in that. Okay, like it doesn't like, because then it takes me off the hook from having to like have, be the one to make it work.
Yes. Yeah. A little bit of relief.
Yeah. And so then all I do, and like, oh, okay, then I say, then, right, it's like, oh, okay, well, then I'm just going to keep putting up platforms and keep trying to like hone this, and hearing and listening to what other people are saying, and working with people, and like yourself, and okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about you? What emotions were coming in today during the meeting for you?
Okay. So there was some confusion. Maybe some I don't know how you, yeah, some contentment in just like the relaxed nature and knowing the individuals that were here. Maybe some envy and jealousy in the, I don't know if that's it, or if it's like, because there's a part of me that wants to be more productive and contributing. So maybe that's shame because there's like an, I'm, you know, judging. And then yeah, maybe some anxiety. And yeah, that's coming off of a list of things we talked about today, or like gave some names to emotions that operate in a daily, on like a daily basis and help us maintain our social dynamics. And then we've got a cupboard in our subconscious that carries some more of the like heavy emotions or the big emotions like grief, depression, joy, stuff like that. So yeah. And I think a bit of like maybe apathy in the sense that it's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help. And that, so it's like, go.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. That's great. I mean, it seems like a really great exercise. And thanks for naming and sharing that, you know, here. But like, yeah, it seems like a really great practice.
Yeah. And I find that I usually come in here and connect with you or and others on more of like the heart. I'm still learning how to be like operational and structural and what was the other word that Justin used in place of operational? I can't think of it right now.
I mean, right. He was talking about, you know, there was, I mean, maybe this is not what you're referring to, but, you know, like the community layer and then yeah, what's the other, you know, and then like the highest ones, like the venture layer, and then the middle one where it's like the, you know, like offering the services or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
the word
really...
aggregate is stuck and I can't get past that, so I can't see which it kind of is. Like aggregate is, I think, like when there's multiple pieces of different components that form a new component, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I and this is one of the things that I'm learning to do with Justin is to like find and discover how to leverage like my gifts and talents. And the exploration here has also contributed to that, right? Looking at how like even just the practice of like voicing and framing my thoughts on like what I have to offer is useful. And then also witnessing other people and how they choose to like open that up and then it was also really interesting when we had more of D Studio around because there was like projects and that potential to form like those roles and responsibilities were more urgent, right? Like, you know, we have this and we need to qualify that just in the fact that like it was kind of like how, you know, there was a project or there was something specific to put the energy towards. And so it creates a formation, whereas that ambiguity comes from belonging to human, belonging to groups of people. There's
Yeah.
just so much, like, you have to so carefully define things, and yeah. So yeah, like I've always said since the beginnings, like the task that you've chosen is going to have some very difficult, like, rough spots. Like it's part of that paradigm shift thing. So I don't have answers for you, but I always enjoy our connection, Rob.
Myself as well. Yeah, yeah. And you help out a lot. You know, you're a big contributor. You know, you're right. Like, you know, if there's right, there's like these kind of, you know, that's a question, you know, that I've this exploration as well. Okay, well, what's a core contributor, right? What does a core contributor look like? You know, what does that look like now? It might look like something different later, you know, but there's, you know, I'm like, oh, there's a group of, you know, of people who I could, you know, qualify or classify as that, you know, and you're certainly one of them. I mean, it's like Natalie and Newman and Zoe, you know, and then, like, you know, probably I'd say, you know, Basil, and, you know, who knows, maybe Dom's coming in and being one of those. You know, sometimes people come in and out, but like there's that sort of group where, you know, like you, I was like, you know, you're like, what is like, okay, I'm going to ask you, I know I ask a lot, you know, but I'm also going to ask you to, like, join Cardano, you know, and give a kudo or whatever, you know, like these people who, yeah. And so, and that's, you know, that's culture right there, you know.
Culture, yeah, that's what Coordinate describes themselves. They're like acknowledging or creating culture. I thought that was an interesting statement somewhere on their website of like why Coordinate, and it builds culture, which I think is true.
Yeah.
This process that you're stepping into, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we're, you know, what I'm doing, you know, is asking people to just to play in this, you know, and part of what you're doing is, you know, is playing in it. And part of what you're doing
Yep.
is, you know, being if you're creating culture and, you know, then you're, you know, a host in a way. Saying, okay,
Cool.
well, come dip in and play with us. And, but, you know, this is kind of how we do things, and this is what it looks like. And I think that's the interesting thing, you know, about right, like the DAO, like, you know, does holistic systems need to be a DAO? I don't know necessarily that it does, you know. Does it need to be on the Hypha DAO platform? I don't know necessarily that it does, but, like, you know, that's here, like those toys are here, you know. And that circle is
It's an
here, you know, and
experience.
yeah. Because
Okay.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So what do you think, you know, there's the next, like, what is the kind of the next step, you know, where we ask, like, do we just say, hey, let's just continue on with, you know, like, okay, we've got this member portal, we've got the needs and offerings, like, let's, you know, like, do we sort of, like, you know, until some bigger project or something comes around, you know, just say, hey, let's just try and get people in Coordinate and, you know, play around with that and do some needs, and, you know, like, keep going with our needs and offerings. And even if it's not that much, you know, just facilitate some value exchange.
Yeah, you know what's coming through for me, and I mean, you can take it or leave it. The holiday season is like the Christmas time is coming up, and I feel like some of these questions may need a breath of space.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe it's time to, like, offer a community gathering just for the sake of gathering. And two, you can, like, if there's opportunity to schedule, like, specific, like, I have this question, I need a team to help me assess, are we doing a DAO or not? You know, going ahead with that, but also giving kind of like, I just feel this sense of like creating space to allow for it to come through. Cause you know, that saying, you can't solve the problem from the position of the problem.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, because, and then calling in the community for just the sake of hanging out brings such a boost of like joy to the system.
Yeah.
That maybe that's all that's needed for now. And things will show themselves. I don't know. Again, I'm speaking from a heart person.
Yeah, yeah.
An operational person. I'm sure Dominic would have like a very different perspective. He's got like a whole business strategy laid out for you already.
Wait, who does? Or
Oh,
is
I
that
said, you know, I'm just joking. Like
a theoretical person? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yeah. Well, that's no. I mean, I really like that suggestion, and you know, and I know, like, I get like who I am as well. You know, like, you know, I mean, for me, like, we just come in and like, you know, like I want to get after it, right? You know, it's like, you know, if I don't think that this is, I don't feel like it's true that this would be the best way to go, you know, like, but there's a no, it's not all me. There's just there's a the part of me that I think, you know, move, you know, is one that moves things forward, wants to come in and be like, all right, let's go and let's get in here and let's figure this out. Let's try coordinate. All right, let everybody get in there and blah, blah, you know, so like, and that's a good energy, but that's not everything, you know, and so right, so it's really valuable, right? That's what I like about collaboration. If you know, and if you're open to it, right, you know, it's like, oh, and then you and Newman, you're talking about, oh, let's do like a new moon, you know, thing, and I'm like, well, what the hell is that? What's that? You know, like, but that part of me is like, what's that gonna accomplish, you know?
Yep.
But that's not, but it's not true, you know, like that part is just a part, you know, and it doesn't see everything. So I think what I'm, yeah, what I'm saying, right, you know, and like the value is like, oh, that sounds like a cool idea.
Yeah, because that part does have a message for you, but if it's totally dominating the scene, then it could be clouding out the other subtleties that are trying to come through.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that is a part that thrives very well in a capitalistic, you know, world. The part that's just is going to get, let's get after it. Let's be productive. Let's make money. Let's go. Let's crush the competition. You know, I have, yeah, that's in me. I could be a really good capitalist. I could.
Yeah. And you like, and on a, you know, now that you're aligned with Haifa, I'm assuming that like things are kind of stabilized. So if HSC takes time to develop, it's not like, well, Rob's going to be on the street kind of situation. Is that correct? Like,
well, I mean, at this point, neither Haifa nor HSC are income generators.
oh, right. Yeah.
But I do have some more stable income generators, you know, so there's, so there's some clients that are, you know, like that are enlisting me for ongoing services, and they definitely can, you know, use my help. And, you know, so I'm there's a baseline, you know, so you know, which is different than I think, you know, like whatever, maybe, you know, 9 months ago, or, you know, a year ago or something, where there wasn't that. So that's helpful, you know, to bring space.
So right, so that part in you too is probably still active from those times too, where it's like, nope, we got to keep this dog sled moving. We're not going to slow down.
Yeah. I mean, there is a way where I feel like I have let go of ever needing like holistic systems to be an income generator. Like that needed to let go, you know?
Yeah.
And that's positive, right? Like that was a big thing. It's like, no,
so anything that does come is a huge bonus, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, top of the hour, sir.
Top of the hour to you, man. Hey, top of
Yep.
the hour. So, yeah, well, that's a good, it's a good idea. I mean, I think with the, and maybe that's something, right? Like maybe that's something that, well, like that we all could, but like that you and Newman, could sort of, help like spearhead, if even if you will, like
Certainly.
that
Mhm.
might be interesting, right? If it's something that you all feel like you have the the bandwidth for, but it's not even like it has to be a whole huge thing. You just be like, oh, let's do A, B, and C,
Yeah.
and we can just sort of call people in for that. But it might be, I think that would actually be helpful for me, right? If you were like, oh, okay, well, like this is what we could do at this meeting,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we can dialogue over in Discord, I guess.
Yeah. Let's do that. But I really like that idea, and I like doing it this month. And I think that every once in a while we have one of these meetings, and I think it works. This seems to work well. We have one of these meetings where we sort of like call people in, because I don't want to be bothering everybody like people know we're having the meeting, and I announce it, so please come. But I don't want to be sort of every week be like, hey, everybody come on, because that's not sustainable. But it's nice to every once in a while have one where we're like, hey, there's this new thing that we want to present, or hey, everybody come here, we're gonna have this kind of gathering, and we're gonna, I mean, it's the end of the year. I love the idea.
Yeah, something that nourishes you and the community. Yeah, because I think, people are asking for that. And yeah. Okay, well,
All right, cool.
sounds good.
Let's dialogue about it. All right, I'm gonna